Today we're discussing the Japanese concept of Poka Yoke. It comes from the Japanese phrase yokaru, which means to avoid, and poke, which means errors. It's a really fascinating concept about preventing mistakes, and I think it has huge potential in construction and development design projects where common errors just can't happen, resulting in fewer delays, less waste being produced, and improving safety. The beauty of Poka Yoke is its simplicity. It was derived from the Toyota production system and translates roughly as mistake-proofing. There are two main approaches: control and warnings. The control approach stops the process dead in its tracks if there's a defect forcing you to fix it. For example, a concrete mixer that simply won't turn on unless the safety guard is in place. No guard means it doesn't work, which should reduce accidents. The warning approach is about getting your attention before something goes wrong, and an example of this might be a reversing alarm on a construction vehicle. The loud beeping or white noise doesn't stop the lorry, but it definitely warns everyone to clear the area, and it gives you a chance before a potential problem turns into a real one. Now, one of the pioneers of this concept, Shingo, categorized Poka Yoke into different types. He talked about designing so they fit together only one way, using counters to ensure the right number of steps, and creating systems that make sure steps are followed in the correct order. Shingo himself had this classic example with the switch assemblies. Workers kept forgetting to put a tiny spring in, which led to a whole lot of faulty switches. His solution was to redesign the process so there was a dedicated spot for each spring. If a spring was still in its spot, workers knew they'd missed one in the assembly. It was a simple change, but incredibly effective.
That's brilliant. It's all about making it obvious when something's wrong or missing.
And that's what's great about Poka Yoke. It doesn't have to be complicated or expensive to be effective. For example, software that prevents you from submitting incorrect data. That's a Poka Yoke solution that could save you lots of time and potential problems later on.
So if we're thinking about a construction project, what are some areas where Poka Yoke could really make a difference?
Well, think about tasks that are prone to human error, especially those with safety implications. Take scaffolding assembly, for example. You could design connectors that physically cannot be attached incorrectly and mitigate the risk of a collapse, or use sensors that trigger an alarm if the load exceeds safe limits, preventing overloading.
How about something like pouring concrete?
Yes, a Poka Yoke system might be where the concrete mixer automatically dispenses the correct proportions of ingredients, eliminating the risk of human error in measuring. Or for concrete placements, you could use laser guides that project the exact location for the pour, ensuring accuracy and reducing wastes. It could be something as simple as color-coding tools or materials could prevent them from being used in the wrong place, or a checklist attached to a piece of equipment that needs to be inspected before use. It's all about building those checks and balances into the process, so that errors are caught early on or ideally prevented altogether.
Do you see Poka Yoke becoming the industry standard?
I think it's inevitable as the construction industry continues to embrace lean principles and strive for greater efficiency and safety. Poka Yoke is going to be an essential approach, and as technology advances, we're going to see even more creative and sophisticated applications emerge and potentially prevent even more errors to create safer, more efficient work environments. And it's not just about preventing costly mistakes and delays. It's about creating a culture of quality and continuous improvement.
Some people might hear mistake-proofing and think it's going to cost a fortune to implement. What would you say to those who are worried about the expense?
Poka Yoke needn't involve fancy technology or expensive software. It can be just about finding simple practical solutions that often cost next to nothing. Remember Shingo's spring example? Yeah, just changing the layout of the workstation solved a huge problem. So, you don't always need a huge investment to make a big impact. It's about looking at every step of the process and asking, how can we make this mistake-proof? Sometimes it's as simple as adding a checklist or a visual cue. Other times it might involve slightly redesigning a tool or a process. So really the biggest investment is in training and encouraging people to think this way. And when you consider the cost of rework, delays, and potential safety hazard, right, the investment in Poka Yoke pays for itself many times over. It's about prevention rather than reaction, and that saves everyone time, money, and stress.
Okay, so for people listening who want to use Poka Yoke, where should you start? What's a good first step to implementing this in your work?
I'd say start small. Don't try to overhaul an entire process overnight. Identify one area in your work where errors occur frequently. Maybe something that's been causing problems or delays, and then you can brainstorm some simple Poka Yoke solutions. You'll probably find a few small changes you can make that may be very effective. It's worth experimenting to see what works. Be creative and continuously improve. Poka Yoke is all about finding innovative solutions that fit your specific needs. What works on one construction site might not work on another. The key is to adapt the principles to your unique context.
Well, this has been an eye-opening look in the world of Poka Yoke. We've gone from the factory floor of Toyota to the construction sites of today and tomorrow, and I think it's safe to say that mistake-proofing has a lot to offer the construction and development world.
Yes, Poka Yoke is a powerful concept that can make a real difference in terms of safety, efficiency, and quality. We hope this has sparked some ideas and inspired you to think differently about how you approach your work. Remember, even small changes can have a big impact. So we encourage you to embrace the Poke Yoke mindset and start building a better, safer, and more efficient future for the construction industry. Thanks for joining us, and until the next time, keep learning, keep innovating, and keep those mistakes at bay. If you enjoyed this podcast, please give us a like and subscribe to be notified of further editions.